Hey guys, Dr. Justin Marcagiani here. Today we're going to be talking about parasite infections and brain fog and cognitive function. We're going to dive into this topic today. I get this question all the time from patients, and I want to give you the facts here and just what I see clinically in practice. Before we do, please smash the like button. Really like to see that, and put your comments down below. I'd like to know if this is an issue that's impacting you personally. All right, so parasite infections, it's actually more common than you think. If you go to a conventional medical doctor, typically they're going to tell you, oh, parasites really only exist in the third world. That is true to a certain degree, but they do exist here at a very, very high amount. I can't tell you how often I see Giardia, crypto, um, different parasites like Blastocystis hominis. You can see different worms. I mean, it happens, right? I'd say 10, 20% of the time I see a patient with a parasite. Now, more than that, patients have the right to have more than one issue. So someone could have, let's say, a bacterial infection, like a bacterial overgrowth, maybe H. pylori, maybe fungal overgrowth, maybe C. diff. And then maybe one of those by itself is just like a little problem. But when you have two or three things layered up, now it can become a much, much bigger problem. So yes, so we have parasites, it can be a big deal, but also these other bugs can also create similar inflammation. I'll even pull up a study here to kind of show you about it here in a second. Again, conventional medicine, they're typically using the older technology, the older stain testing for looking at parasites, where you look under a microscope, put a stain on it so you can see it, and you can see different Giardia, crypto, Entamoeba histolytica. And that's good, but some of the newer testing that involves PCR testing, you can see a lot more of an infection. You'd have a very small amount of that material, and genetically you can magnify it through that PCR cycle testing. So really important because you can pick up infections that maybe you would have missed. So parasites can be an issue. They're a lot more common than conventional medicine would lead on. Tend to write it off and just let it be for third world countries, but we do see it here. And obviously, just having indoor plumbing and not defecating in the streets and having cleaner water, even just chlorine disinfecting it, you're going to mitigate a lot of the ways parasites travel, but you can still pass it on. Now, again, how do parasites impact you? So first off, parasites, they can what's called increase inflammation in the gut. And then you get this what's called brain gut axis. So the HPAG axis or HPG axis, hypothalamic pituitary, and then it can go to adrenal, thyroid, and then gonadal or gut. So HPG axis. So there's a feedback loop from the brain that's like the master controller. Think of it as the thermostat, and think of the end organs like the gut as like the HVAC or the heater that has to go on, right? And so we have feedback loops can be disrupted with chronic inflammation. That's why there's just lots of studies on like head trauma, someone getting a concussion or getting in a car accident actually can cause leaky gut, because that brain axis, that HPG axis, can disrupt the gut, just like the gut can disrupt the brain. So we can have gut inflammation, can create gut permeability. That gut permeability allows those enterocytes in the gut to open up. Undigested food particulate, bacteria, different particles can get into the bloodstream. It can make its way up to the brain, where you have the blood-brain barrier, the BBB, which are the astrocytes of the brain. That opens up, and that can activate the microglial cells in the brain. So when we have a lot of stress in the brain, it's usually those microglial cells that are becoming overactive. That's a big deal, because if we have overactive microglial cells, it starts to exponentially become more and more active. So it's like throwing a golf ball on a football field full of mousetraps. Once one hits, it just starts to create a collateral going off of all the other mousetraps around it. So that's a big deal. That's really a big deal. So we want to be on top of that. Okay, so we want to look at the underlying reason why that microglial activation is there. And there's different nutrients we can give to calm it down. But again, if it's there, you have to be aware of it. And if there's gut issues that are driving it, if there's a parasite issue that's driving it, if there's a gluten that's driving it, you have to get to the underlying issue. So parasites could be an underlying root cause. So you want to really be on top of that. Let me pull up a study here. I just found here a little bit ago that I was reviewing for the video. This is cool. All right. So I was talking about helminths in children. These are like worms. And it's called chronic helminth infection perturbs the gut-brain axis and promotes neuropathology and alters behavior. So we know the gut is incredibly connected to mood and behavior, partly because of the fact that we absorb all of our nutrients to the gut. So if we take in our amino acids and our building blocks, our fatty acids, our good cholesterol building blocks, that's the raw material for our brain there. So if we don't have that dialed in, if we don't have those building blocks coming in, we're not going to be able to build the raw material. So we demonstrated that early life exposure to helminths promotes local and systemic inflammatory response and transient changes in the GI microbiome. Behavioral and cognitive performed 9 months post-infection revealed deficits in spatial recognition, memory, and anxiety-like behavior, which is interesting. Study demonstrates a previous unrecognized mechanism through which helminth infections may influence cognitive function via the gut immune brain axis. So this is fascinating. Gut immune brain axis. Let's pull this up here. It's that feedback loop that I was telling you guys about. Let me pull it up, get a good image here for you guys. This is perfect right here. This is exactly what I want. I'll pull this up so you guys can see it. So the gut microbiota immune axis, therapeutic implications. Let's go look at this here. All right, awesome. So first thing out of the gate here, the thermostat upstream is the brain that communicates downstream, right? So that's really, really, really important. We want to make sure that we understand that feedback loop. Let's take a look at it. Set cookies. Oh, hold on. Here it is. So you can see right here, here's our brain, our spinal cord, the vagus nerve. And so what happens is when we have stress in the gut, it impacts the vagus nerve. It's going to impact blood flow to the brain. It also impacts, this is our gut barrier, I think here. This is our gut barrier right here. So it's going to impact 5-HTP. It's going to impact GABA. It's going to impact tryptophan. This is going to be our precursor to serotonin and melatonin. It's going to impact our immune. It's going to impact gut hormones. It's going to impact our immune B lymphocytes, T lymphocytes. And then you can see over here, now we have our cytokines. So now we have interleukin. We have different IFNY, monocyte tracking, cytokines. These are interleukins. Nuclear factor kappa beta is one of them. And so this is what's going to be the big thing, right? We focus on the immunomodulatory mechanism of communication between the gut and the brain. So this feedback loop is now disrupted. So that's the big mechanism that we're seeing here. And so when we look at that, we have the gut barrier. When the gut barrier becomes impaired, that also creates blood-brain barrier, BBB impairment, and that's the astrocytes. And some of the big things that can do that is parasite toxins can do that, the different toxins from the parasite. It also can increase the immune activation in the gut. So now it increases food allergenicity. So now you're more sensitive to the foods that you're eating, number two. Number three, it's also going to lower your stomach acid, lower your enzymes, and lower your bile. So now you have an inability to break down the foods that are coming into your body. And it's important because your hormones are made from cholesterol, right? Your steroid hormones are made from cholesterol or made from protein. So if we have an impairment in breaking down protein, breaking down fat, breaking down cholesterol, that's going to be a big deal. And then next, of course, once we activate those microglial cells, that can create a lot of immunological issues in the brain. And so using certain nutrients like NAC or glutathione or curcumin or vitamin D or resveratrol can play a really important role in dampening that inflammation. Also, getting probiotics on board can be very helpful for the gut too. It can really calm down the inflammation. But if we have a root cause underlying issue with parasitic infections, and again, patients that have parasites a lot of times still have other infections too. So I don't want to get someone to say, oh, I just have a parasite. You could have parasite plus a bunch of other things. You could have a bunch of other things and no parasite. But the mechanism is still the same. We're activating the microglial cells. We're creating gut permeability. We're interacting with our immune system because 80% of it lives in the gut. So now we're activating our immune cells like nuclear factor kappa beta, interleukins, cytokines, and now that's overacting the immune response in the brain via the microglial cells. So again, you want to get to the root cause of the infection. Get a gut test. We do these gut tests all the time in office. We see patients worldwide. We mail them to you, complete them in the comfort of your own home. We can get a good window into that. We'll also run organic acids because organic acids will give us a window into other bacteria and yeast issues that may be harder to look at in the gut, and we look at it via urine. And then also on some of the gut tests, we can see how the digestive system is doing. Is there excess inflammation? Is there low enzymes? Is there a lot of malabsorbed fat? Is there an overactive immunoglobulin A response? Is there other infections that are going on there? Because I tell patients, you have the right to have more than one infection going on at the same time. So if you want to dig deeper, there'll be a link down below where you can reach out to my staff and team if you want that support on the functional medicine side worldwide to get to the root of what's happening. But again, if you have chronic brain fog issues and cognitive issues, look at the gut. When the gut's impaired, it's going to impact the hormones because it impacts the raw material. It impacts other mitochondrial pathways because of all the B vitamins and nutrients to run those pathways. And then once we have gut-brain barrier issues. Once the barrier in the gut, the leaky gut or the intestinal permeability starts to happen in the gut, that can increase the blood-brain barrier permeability in the brain. That can activate the microglia. So you can see this mechanism can just kind of go full cycle, and it just keeps on getting worse and worse. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please let me know. Put it in the comments. Let me know what you liked and what you want to hear more topics on, guys. And again, if you want more support, links down below to reach out and also get testing to figure out what's going on with you. All right, guys, take care. Have a great day.